Hello, and welcome to WTF, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, our posting schedule.
Where we talk about books, writing, and everything else that we do. But what we're talking about today is...
Here, it's...
Book breakups.
Oh no. So, what do we mean by book breakup? Because, this could be taken in a myriad of ways.
Oh, you're so in sync today.
Okay, so what we mean by book breakup is as you're writing a book, as you're drafting a book, or editing a book. This happens a lot in editing. You realize that something's not working. Mm-hmm. And I wrote down my steps that I thought of in the script writing.
Figure out what's not working.
Try to work it out. Step 3. Go crazy. Step 4, there's no step 4. But we have better advice than that.
Better steps than that.
So I think today we're going to talk about how different writers have worked it out, how we've worked it out, and how we are working out right now in our current works.
A first example.
Wait, first we should introduce ourselves.
Right. Yeah, why are you watching this? Why do you care?
Exactly. Why are we a good source?
Well, first of all, we have Aubin and Elise. Yes. The author.
How'd you get her on here?
I don't know. It took a lot of effort. I had to go to her room.
Oh, wow. Okay, so hi, I'm Aubin Elise. I'm the author of The Second Nature of Indigo, which is a Victorian-era coming-of-age novel with hints of murder and dashes of circus. Mm-hmm. It's out everywhere, and you can enjoy it in whatever format you like, including audiobook. And my second book is coming out this year. And details will be released soon. So stick around, and you'll be one of the first to know.
Yeah. My name is Mariella May. I'm currently working on a fantasy duology, and we are well into the editing stages of it. The release date set for it currently is May 5th, 2025.
But more importantly, more imminently, cover art is being released this Friday.
Yeah, so also mark your calendars.
And it will be released on this channel, I think. Maybe to Discord first.
We might release it to Discord first. So
anyway,
join our Discord.
Yeah, then you'll know everything. Now let's get back to the video.
We've been working on books for
You've been
writing since 20...
I've been writing with the intent of my first manuscript.
2018?
Since 2019.
Yeah. So 6 years.
And then before that, I had been studying writing for,
school.
Pretty much all my life.
Yeah. When we were little, we were often read books and, pretty advanced books for how... If you saw our video on Mysterious Benedict Society, that book was read to me when I was 4. And we've always been in a very literary-driven family.
Yeah, pretty much everyone in our house is a writer in some capacity.
Yeah.
Our brother could be a writer if he wanted to be.
He's more of an avid reader.
Yeah.
And we've broken up with a lot of...
We've broken up with a lot of parts of our books.
Yeah. And a lot of books in general. I think the first thing I'm going to mention is that not all breakups are breakups. Sometimes you're just putting a pause on your relationship.
Yeah.
You're taking a break.
With
your relationship with this book. I have a book. I love it so much.
Yeah.
But it's not for me right now, Right book, wrong time. I'll come back to it. Yeah. But it's not the book for me right now. I mean, also I'm currently really working on one, so.
Yeah. I would definitely agree. I have projects I don't think I will get to putting them out
for years,
for decades, maybe. I don't know. 2 of them are TV shows, so I would be writing them much, much later with the actual intent of making them. So it's not that you have to throw away a project if it's not time or if it's not working. You can always set it aside. But if it's something like our projects that we're currently working on, for me, it's my second manuscript. It's called Gabriel, which is not the title, but that's what we're calling it right now. And for you, that would be the book we're going to release the title of on Friday.
We will be able to say it. Oh, so soon. All the times we've had to edit it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I've been working on this book for over a year? 2 years? Is it really almost 2 years? Wow. But I've been working on this for a pretty long time. And it's a pretty long book. I mean, we're almost to
120K.
Yeah. So it's a big book, and I have had to break up with several parts of it, including the end. And that was a tough breakup. Actually, it wasn't as tough as I thought it would be. It's like when you assume that it's going to be hard and it happens, and then you're like, wait, that was actually really the right move. So I had the end be very, very different at the beginning, and I was so attached to it that I just kept going. And this will probably happen to you, especially because it was pretty much the end I had envisioned when I started writing it. So, first of all, when I was a much less good writer, that was the end that I had envisioned. It was always the point that I was driving myself towards. But the problem was that was when I still had it as a one-off book.
Yeah.
And not a duology. And then when I started writing the second book, I was like, the energy and the life and the passion from the first book is almost nullified by how I had it end. So we were back at square zero with the tension, I guess. And it just became annoying. I was like, this is an annoying book if I was reading it. And I have to write it. So, I mean, I'm not saying that it's less annoying now. I mean, it's still very annoying. But it's annoying in a different way.
I wouldn't say it's annoying. I would say it's agonizing. There's a difference between annoying and agonizing.
You're going to have parts of your book that you just have to let go. And it's going to be okay. You're going to grow, and you're going to realize through your eventual relationships with the true end or true middle of your story how much better it is.
Or beginning. One thing that happens a lot is we can make a separate video on how to figure out what's not working in this book relationship. Beginnings are really tough. You can make a lot of, if you plot, then you might not be starting at the right point in your plot, which is easy to do. And then if you're pantsing, you start at the beginning, and then it really changes your perception of the characters depending on what point in the story you start. Yeah. And if you're pantsing, it's super fluid. And plotting versus pantsing. Plotting is when you have an idea of how the story's going to go. Pantsing is when you're making it up as you go.
Yeah, I would say also with pantsing, never be afraid when you really learn who the characters are and get into their psyche to go back to the beginning and be like, whoa, this is not the characters.
A huge example of that just happened recently is Ella was writing, and she wrote 7,000 words in a day, which is insane. Yeah. And
it was for a different story. I had come up with it the night before. I actually worked outside with our mom. Yeah. We were gardening. Actually, everyone was gardening that day. For 4 hours, I came back inside. I think that morning I had written 2,000 words. Came back inside, wrote 5,000 more words. Yeah. And then the next day, I think I wrote 2,000 more words. Yeah. And then I read it to you.
Yeah, and she read it to me. Well, I read it out loud to her mostly, and I was like, it's okay. Yeah, it
solidly was okay.
Amazing. And, working on her other book, it's just, editing her other book, it's just it's not what I know you can do. It's not bad. It wasn't bad. It's just...
Yeah, it was solidly
It was solidly meh. I knew you could, if you really wanted to, you could go back and rework it and make it better in that way you had it. But then Ella was like, okay, no, I'm going to go back and rework it. And
I rewrote...
She took the best parts of that story, except for one which I want you to bring back. But it's okay. You can talk about it later.
And then just rewrote it.
And guys, it got so good. I genuinely really would love. I'm waiting to hear the next part of the story, and that's just so exciting for me as your alpha reader, your editor. That is super exciting to me. So it would be easy for you to be like, oh yeah, I wrote 7,000 words in a day. That's amazing. Clearly,
I'm just gonna keep going.
Clearly,
with that.
This must be the way to do it. But I thought it was really cool and mature of you that you just were like, this isn't what the story needs. Yeah. This isn't what I want it to be. And then you just...
The best thing that I learned from those 7,000 words was who these two side characters are. I mean, they're not side characters at all. They're very main characters, but they're not the POV character. Yeah. And when I learned who they were, and another side character who's more of a side character, when I learned who those 3 characters were, I could flesh out the world so much more when I started rewriting it. And I just made it so much more...
Everything?
Yeah, it was so
You
much...
began in a different place as well.
I did. I began at a different place. And I changed one of the characters' origin story. Yeah, drastically.
I'd say both of them kind of appeared drastically different to me.
Yeah, the thing is, that story has 2 POVs, and the other one, when I wrote it for the first time,
it was very mysterious.
Yeah, and it only had 1 POV.
Yes.
We never got to see the other character's side of it. So,
yeah,
even if it's not a breakup, sometimes it's just changing it.
Complete rework.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't abandon the story. You just completely made it kind of a different story.
Yeah, and I think that that's a really cool thing that you can do if you really like the world or the story or something about it, but you don't like the exact way you have it. Just redoing it all can make it so much more you.
Yeah. And so this past Saturday, we went to go to the book signing for Hafsa Faisal. Yes, and so we got really to hear her talk about her writing process in her books and ask her questions, which was just amazing. But she said that sometimes she takes stuff out at the beginning, and then it finds its way back into the book at the end. And I thought that was so interesting because it's like parts, like seeds of these original ideas were really good, and then they got taken away. And then you were like, okay, these are actually, as you're going through your manuscript, you're like, wait a minute. Okay, so parts of this original idea were good. Let me go back and bring them back in. Yeah. And you probably, I mean, I haven't asked her this many questions. But I wonder if it's like you change them slightly or they fit better. I don't know.
I think I have found often when I'm changing stuff, and even with, because I rewrote all of what I had for the second book of my duology, I found that there were parts of it that I really liked. I mean, parts I had to completely scrap because the character was there that couldn't be there. But there were parts that I really liked that I'm definitely going to keep in this version of it. So I don't think that even if you're doing what I just did with this other book and scrapping the entire what you have, I think it's awesome to keep it in mind and keep it in a separate document. I still have all of it in saved to the same document, actually, just in this different part.
Yeah. Because
I'm probably going to go back and grab stuff or at least reread it and think about what I was envisioning. I think even now that we're in the editing stage for the first book of my story, we've taken parts and moved it around definitely towards the end.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like because you had so many good ideas towards the ends, but they don't always fit. Yeah. It's like, this is not the right moment for this scene, but this scene is super amazing. And we do really want it in here. But
and I'd also say with breaking up with specific scenes, if you get rid of them, sometimes you can find an even better scene. Like, there's a scene that I wrote between 2 characters, and I solidly love it towards the end. And I had to take out, well, actually, it was more like I already took out stuff, and it was filling a void. But it was more like if you're filling in your bookshelf, and you take out a book that doesn't exactly fit, but then you find one that just perfectly slides into that spot, and it's so nice, and you're like, oh yes, this was where you were always meant to go.
Yes.
And I hadn't written that scene before, so I obviously couldn't have been like, oh, I need to move this, and I have to take that out. So sometimes it's like a leap of faith. You got to be like, okay, I can do something better here.
Yeah.
And take something out so you can give yourself that space.
Yeah. Kind of the same thing happened with my entire second book. I had 80 different ideas for how I was going to begin this book. At the end of my first book, The Second Nature of Indigo, I was just like, okay, well, what do authors do? I was like, authors just go ahead and start writing their second book. So I was just like, okay, cool. I'm going to just start writing the second book. It was the most, okay, no, that's an exaggeration. It was really, really boring and it was so hard because I was having these ideas, but none of them fit. I didn't love any of them. One thing I did write down was sort through the voices in your head, see which ones are from your highest self /creative energy /God, the source of all creative energy, and then see which ones are just you either self-limiting, being afraid, having a scarcity mindset with your creativity and like ideas. I think when that was what really made writing book 2 hard for me, was because I was like, what if I can't do it? Or like, what if it's not as good? What if it's not
as powerful?
What if I just need to figure something out now, because that's what authors do. Like, they don't wait around forever. And anyway, so I was like trying to force it, and it didn't work. And if you have to force a relationship, it probably means it's not the right one. And, you know, sometimes, like, eventually I find that usually my best writing is the stuff I can't help but do.
Yeah.
And sometimes I sit down and I have to push through the voices in my head that is like, you can't write this scene well, it won't be as good as your other ones, or like, you don't know enough to write this scene, blah, da, da, da.
But it does become an amazing scene.
It does become an amazing scene. Sometimes I have to do that too, but it's really important to sort out those voices in your head and
figure out what you really want.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say also with that is a lot of times you just need to make space for yourself.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean in your book, I mean in your life, in your time. If you're really stressed out with school or work or college or whatever you're doing right now, and you just can't focus on anything else, you can't write because you're working on too many papers or emails or stuff like that, that's not the time you need to write. I mean, if you have a deadline, then I would suggest you've got to pick your battles. I know that sounds bad if you're like in a college, but sometimes you need to figure out what is the most effective for your goal.
Yeah, like, absolutely. Because
it depends on what you prioritize. And
what you actually want. And you might be prioritizing the wrong thing. Yeah,
if you like are about to get an awesome book deal and maybe you need to get like a little bit of a lower grade in your college course right now, that's okay. I mean, if that's your dream, I mean, from me, who's not going to go to college, but it's choosing what you want to do. And I feel like writing is an amazing, I mean, obviously, seeing as how I'm planning on doing it for the rest of my life. But if that's what you want to do, then I wouldn't say be afraid. I feel like there's like the classic, starving artist, you're never going to get anything. But there are so many successful writers throughout the world. And I think that being afraid that it won't work is the first and most limiting thing you can do.
Yeah.
It's like the most likely to keep you from succeeding. So just separating that voice in your head.
If you bring your baggage into a relationship, it makes that relationship harder. And then it kind of confirms the baggage you brought in.
Yeah. So you just got to relax and let your work speak for itself.
Another interesting thing is, for me, sometimes if I have a book idea, like sometimes an idea comes to you and you're like, wow, this is a really cool idea. And then you start working on the project, and for me, in my case, I didn't love working on the project. But then I would break pieces of that idea off and then try them with different ideas I had. So I thought of this really cool concept for a world, and then I separately thought of this relationship between kind of a detective and somebody else, and I was like, okay, that's really interesting. And I was just playing around in my head, and I put them together, and I was like, whoa, because I had kind of had a normal setting for this one, and anyway, putting them together was like, that was amazing. And I'd say that sometimes I have kind of a workshop in my head, and sometimes things are, do you mind holding this so I can illustrate with my hands? So, sometimes you just have toys and gears and wires and elements and stuff, and you're just a little tinker in your head, and you're going, what's this gear? How does this work? How does this little thing work? And sometimes it's a whole head of a thing, like it's a robot head, and then you're like, okay, so this robot head, and then you have this gorgeous, like, I don't know, marionette. Yeah, porcelain doll or something, marionette body. And then you're like, okay, this is fun. Then you are
You're a Frankenstein.
artist or a tinker, and I'd say you don't have to keep ideas together in the way that they came to you, but of course, if that's how they want to be, then do that.
Yeah.
But I've definitely found a lot of fun in putting different ideas together.
Going back to breakups is, I would say, if your story, you love it, but it's not working out, try doing stuff like that.
Yeah, that was one of my steps. Step number 2 is try stuff out. Before you go crazy.
Yeah. Just try and figure out what you want, what your story needs, if you're writing in a different person or a different...
Yes.
Some stories need third person, and some stories need first person.
Yeah.
Maybe your story needs second person.
For me, a few things that to try out as an example. Definitely person. I changed my entire book, second book, from third person
to first person.
Long story with the second book. But anyway, another thing I had to change was the character. It was not working. And that's why the book wasn't working. And eventually one character became 2 characters. And because I had this original idea of how this character was going to go, and then this new idea came, melded in. It was this very confusing lump. And then I separated this one guy into 2 guys, and everything made sense slowly, over a period of like 2 months. So double check all your characters, who they are, how they talk, how they think, their religion. What else did I write? Characters, motivation, who they are, their world, the rules of the world. If the rules of the world are inhibiting you from writing the story that you need to write, then you can usually tweak them just a little bit.
I'd say also adding new rules.
Sometimes limitations help.
Yeah, sometimes if you're like, a lot of the way in, and then you're like, oh, what would make this so good? Sometimes you're going to change things, and it's going to be great, and it's also going to be annoying. I changed stuff in Wonderland that is now changing a whole bunch of other stuff. I mean, it's not changing as much as I feared, but it is, we still have so much work for blending it into the story.
Yeah.
So there are going to be things that are going to be great and also so much work. So never be afraid to really take your time with this relationship and figure out if it's going to work.
For me, I had to change the tense of my novel because my brain wrote in all the tenses at once.
At the same time.
And it was so hard. I was editing that book for like basically almost 2 years. And I was still finding tense errors. Too far in. But anyway, another through line, it's a mystery, in the first book it's like younger children trying to take on a much bigger problem, and their parents knew about it.
Which made
this
no
is
sense.
why it's a trope in books that the parents know nothing, because it doesn't make sense. If the parents know what their children are getting into, the parents would never let their children get into all the dangerous things. Yeah. But in my story, it was just like the parents were actually helping them. They were like, here's your thing that you need to go, like, do this dangerous thing. I'm going to be waiting here to, like, call the police if you need me. Which just also lowers the stakes. So that was in so many scenes of my novel. And it all had to be taken out. So and that was honestly such a relief to me. Yeah. It was like, writing those scenes was painful, editing those scenes was painful, and then taking them out. Yes, I did have to change a lot. Yes, it did take a lot of work, but it made the book so much better. And that was a good relationship to leave behind.
Yeah, sometimes really you just need to break up with parts of your story. Sometimes you need to rewrite the whole story. Sometimes it's just
a
little things.
Just a rule.
And sometimes you're actually not breaking up with them, but you're going back and refleshing out the relationship. So figure out what your book needs.
And you can also ask for help.
Yeah. Speaking of
sometimes,
which, we have a Discord.
We have a Discord, yes.
So if you want to ask us or other people on there, you can hang out with us there. Yeah. So, finding people who you trust and respect enough to tell you that your book is meh is really, really important. So, go out there and make your amazing story. Yeah.
So, thanks, guys, for watching our video of breaking up. with your book. We wish you all the best in your breakups. And if you guys want to see more, obviously we have a whole playlist of writing advice. We have a writing advice video coming out pretty much every week. We also have book club video coming out at the end of the month, and then we just talk about books every week as well. And then there's always one video that's just like a random wild card.
Something. So yeah.
And yeah. So
we post 3 times a week, WTF.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah. Hope to see you again tomorrow.
Oh, and in the pinned comment, tell us what the hardest part of your book breakup is. And go ahead and watch our video about Romance 101.
Oh, if you are writing romance, I mean.
Yeah, you might not be writing romance.
We have so many other videos if you are working on world building,
Romance 101.
plotting, all sorts of stuff.
So
So
bye.
love you guys.